Plans changed. Stay home. Your sister wants to bring her boyfriend, so he will take your spot on the Paris vacation. That was the exact text message I received from my own mother late Tuesday evening. She casually crossed my name off a luxury penthouse trip worth $57,000 that I had worked to the bone to personally finance in full. My name is Nadine. I am 27 years old, and I proudly run a highly successful independent fashion boutique. I did not scream or call them to demand an angry explanation because my patience and forgiveness for carrying my family's massive financial burdens for years had completely run dry. I simply stared at the glowing phone screen for a few heavy seconds and offered a cold smile before typing out a brief reply to completely lower their guard. I understand. I hope you all have a wonderful trip. The exact moment I hit send, I logged directly into my secure banking portal and decided to systematically retract absolutely everything I had blindly paid for over the past 6 years. I humbly stepped aside to let them arrogantly board that premium business class flight to France, while silently preparing a devastatingly brutal financial lesson for when they finally dragged themselves back home. Before I dive into exactly how I completely dismantled their entitled little lives, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. Hit like and subscribe if you have ever had to cut off toxic family members and teach them a harsh lesson in reality. The blue light from the computer monitor reflected softly against the stacks of premium silk fabric resting on my desk in the dead of night. I navigated directly to my primary online banking portal to initiate the first critical phase of my financial extraction. For 6 long years, I had quietly maintained a series of automated monthly transfers, carefully designed to consistently cover their utility bills, premium health insurance, and property taxes. My fingers moved swiftly across the mechanical keyboard as I systematically clicked through the administration panels. I permanently deleted every single recurring payment profile, effectively severing their unearned financial lifeline with a few precise keystrokes. Once those automated drains were fully neutralized, I opened the secure ledger for the dedicated family emergency fund. I had painstakingly built that specific account over several grueling years, depositing exactly $120,000 to strictly protect my parents from genuine medical tragedies or sudden catastrophic life events. The digital page loaded slowly against the dark background. I stared at the bold numbers displayed prominently at the very top of the screen. The available balance was completely decimated, showing a pathetic remaining total of just $180. A cold knot formed deep in my stomach as I aggressively scrolled down to examine the recent transaction history. I initially believed my generous $57,000 gift simply covered their premium airline flights and the luxury penthouse suite in Paris. The detailed bank statements revealed a profoundly different and highly disturbing reality. The massive emergency reserve had not been utilized for anything remotely resembling a genuine crisis. Instead, the funds had been systematically drained over the past 5 weeks through massive, unapproved withdrawals directly linked to high-end European fashion boutiques and exclusive designer jewelry retailers located downtown. Mom and Shelby had actively pillaged the vital medical safety net to finance a wildly extravagant shopping spree to properly prepare their designer wardrobes for the upcoming French vacation. They had arrogantly prioritized buying imported leather handbags over maintaining the critical financial security I had worked so incredibly hard to carefully establish. The sheer staggering magnitude of their coordinated deception prompted me to immediately cross-reference the account activity on the secondary platinum credit card. I had foolishly issued that specific plastic card to my sister several years ago, strictly for purchasing basic groceries and emergency fuel. The recent charges practically jumped off the glowing monitor. Shelby had not simply packed her stolen designer bags for the upcoming trip. She had actively authorized an exorbitant pending charge to secure a high-performance sports car rental specifically for Lance to casually drive around the European countryside. Right beneath that absurd automotive expense were dozens of fresh pending charges from elite downtown restaurants and premium cocktail lounges. She had been treating her opportunistic boyfriend to wildly expensive dinners for several continuous months without ever having the basic decency to ask for my permission. I leaned back deeply in my heavy leather office chair, quietly listening to the steady hum of the building ventilation system. "You actually thought I was just a blind, endless fountain of cash," I whispered to the empty room, shaking my head at the undeniable digital records. "Let us see exactly how well you survive when the well runs completely dry." I did not allow any lingering feelings of familial sorrow to cloud my rational judgment. The situation now demanded pure tactical precision rather than emotional reactions. I highlighted every single unauthorized charge and initiated a massive batch download for the entire collection of corrupted bank statements. I meticulously organized the downloaded financial documents into a highly encrypted digital folder on my local hard drive. I needed to ensure that absolutely every piece of undeniable evidence was perfectly preserved and securely locked away to fully prepare for my upcoming legal appointment with my attorney. At 10 o'clock the following morning, the frantic ringing of my personal cell phone shattered the busy working atmosphere at the boutique. I stepped away from the bustling showroom floor and quickly retreated into my private back office to answer the unexpected call. The caller identification displayed the name of Piper, an old friend from college, who currently worked as a senior clerk at a prominent local notary office. She sounded incredibly breathless and deeply concerned the moment the line connected. She had bypassed standard professional protocols to urgently contact me regarding a highly suspicious legal document explicitly involving the premium residential property, legally registered entirely under my name. "Nadine, my office just received an application to transfer the ownership of your apartment. Someone is using a power of attorney to do this. Please keep this absolutely strictly confidential for me, and immediately send a complete copy of the entire file through my secure email right now." I kept my voice completely steady while instructing her to bypass the usual bureaucratic delays and handle the matter with the utmost discretion. Within a matter of seconds, a heavily encrypted digital file arrived directly in my private inbox. I swiftly clicked the attachment open and meticulously examined the scanned legal paperwork illuminating my bright computer monitor. The extensive documents were officially drafted to seamlessly transfer the deed of my Bellevue property entirely over to my parents without my actual physical presence or consent. I zoomed in closely on the primary authorization page and felt an intense physical wave of absolute disgust wash over my entire body. Mom had brazenly forged my personal signature on the crucial dotted line. She had evidently spent hours perfectly tracing the intricate loops and specific angles of my handwriting to confidently bypass the standard municipal authentication procedures. They forged the signature incredibly well, and I strongly suspect their next step is using it to secure a massive mortgage against the property. Piper delivered that chilling professional assessment before quickly ending the brief call to avoid drawing any unwanted attention from her strict supervisors. Her terrifying warning echoed loudly in the quiet confines of my office and brought a profound new level of clarity to my mind. My family was not merely content with quietly stealing my liquid emergency funds or aggressively hijacking my incredibly expensive European vacation. They were actively orchestrating a highly sophisticated and totally illegal scheme to completely strip away my most valuable physical asset. They fully intended to illegally assume total ownership of the expensive Bellevue residence and immediately leverage the stolen equity to secure a massive amount of raw cash from a corporate bank. They desperately wanted to permanently plunge me into hundreds of thousands of dollars of inescapable financial debt simply to endlessly finance their ridiculously lavish lifestyle. This horrifying revelation instantly shifted my perspective regarding the entire catastrophic situation unfolding before me. I was no longer dealing with simple toxic family entitlement or petty emotional manipulation from ungrateful relatives. This was a highly calculated and undeniable act of federal identity theft, orchestrated directly by the very woman who gave birth to me. The lingering shreds of daughterly obligation I might have subconsciously harbored were permanently incinerated the exact moment I saw that fraudulent forged signature glaring back at me. I firmly closed the laptop screen and began systematically drafting a comprehensive list of highly aggressive legal countermeasures. I thoroughly needed to construct an absolutely impenetrable defensive wall around my remaining assets and firmly prepare an unforgiving retribution that would permanently sever their toxic access to my hard-earned wealth. At exactly 2 o'clock on Thursday afternoon, I walked into the downtown office of my attorney, carrying the complete file of gathered evidence. I sat directly across the polished mahogany desk from my attorney Bennett and silently presented the encrypted digital statements detailing the massive financial extractions, alongside the horrifying forged power of attorney document that Piper had just intercepted. Bennett reviewed the thick stack of paperwork with a cold professional intensity, meticulously analyzing the sheer audacity of my family's criminal maneuvers. He recognized the severe, immediate threat posed by the expertly forged signature and instructed me to take highly aggressive preemptive measures to strictly protect my remaining wealth from further unauthorized exploitation. We must block this property transfer first before we proceed with the federal credit fraud reports, Bennett stated firmly while rapidly drafting an emergency legal injunction on his computer. Freeze the entire supplementary card system immediately and do not let them spend another dime overseas. I want the lawsuit documents fully prepared, but we are not going to file them with the court just yet. I replied, matching his calculated tactical precision. I pulled out my smartphone and initiated a highly secure conference call with the 3 major national credit reporting bureaus to place an ironclad fraud alert across my entire financial identity. The rigorous verification process required me to verbally confirm my Social Security number and previous residential addresses before the customer service representatives could officially lock down my comprehensive credit history. This permanent freeze guaranteed that no corporate banking institution could ever approve the pending mortgage application or authorize any new lines of credit using my stolen personal information. Once the federal credit locks were successfully established, I followed Bennett's strict legal guidance and navigated directly to my primary commercial bank portal. I located the specific supplementary platinum credit card currently resting inside Shelby's designer purse and firmly clicked the permanent cancellation button. I watched the active account status on my mobile application permanently shift to a bright red declined state, ensuring she was completely cut off from my wealth while she was thousands of miles away exploring the French capital. I then took the final necessary step of brutally severing every single automated utility payment, property tax installment, and premium health insurance draft I had previously maintained for my parents' suburban residence. The financial wall around my assets was now absolutely impenetrable and completely secure. While I was actively dismantling their financial lifelines, Bennett rapidly finalized a highly formal legal notice of contestation and electronically dispatched the critical document straight to the county land management agency. This emergency filing successfully placed a hard legal freeze on the Bellevue property title, effectively stopping Mom's fraudulent transfer application dead in its tracks before any underwriter could process the illegal equity loan. We spent the next 2 solid hours meticulously organizing the bank statements, the forged documents, and the transaction logs into a comprehensive federal fraud indictment. We methodically built a flawless criminal case against my own flesh and blood, gathering all the necessary ammunition to ensure their eventual prosecution. However, we deliberately chose to keep the completed legal weapon resting quietly on his desk rather than submitting the massive paperwork to the judicial system today. Filing the civil lawsuit and criminal complaints immediately would inevitably trigger automated notification letters to their home address and risk alerting them prematurely. I needed my betrayers to continue enjoying their stolen Parisian vacation, blissfully unaware that their entire comfortable existence was being systematically eradicated piece by piece back on American soil. We neatly packed the devastating legal files into his secure office vault, closing out our highly productive afternoon meeting without leaving any loose ends or overlooked vulnerabilities. At 7 o'clock on Friday morning, a large truck from a professional moving company slowly backed into the driveway of the apartment legally registered under my name. My relatives were currently fast asleep somewhere high over the Atlantic Ocean, completely oblivious to the ruthless material purge actively happening back on American soil. I stood firmly on the front porch holding a thick clipboard filled with original purchase invoices and highly detailed inventory manifests. I utilized my absolute legal ownership of the property to officially authorize a total extraction of every single valuable item I had ever purchased to furnish that ungrateful household. The moving crew foreman approached me for final instructions before breaching the front entrance with his eager team. Just verify the serial numbers on the original receipts, and if they match, load absolutely everything onto the truck for me. The burly workers flooded into the main living room and immediately began dismantling the luxurious environment piece by piece. They methodically flipped over the massive leather sectional sofas to check the specific manufacturer tags against my provided documentation. They unmounted the expensive flat-screen televisions from the walls and completely disconnected the premium smart washing machines from the utility room. The extraction crew even cleared out the imported dining room table and the high-end kitchen appliances I had generously gifted them last Christmas. Absolutely nothing was spared during the highly systematic removal. If my hard-earned cash had paid for the physical object, it was aggressively wrapped in thick protective blankets and hauled straight out the front door. While the movers efficiently cleared out the lower level, I directed my immediate attention to the professional locksmith waiting patiently near the entrance. I needed to guarantee that my treacherous family could never simply walk back into my personal property once they eventually returned from their doomed European getaway. I am the legal owner of this property, so please replace the entire door lock system with the most secure commercial steel available. He nodded silently and immediately powered up his heavy industrial drill. He completely destroyed the old electronic smart locks that Mom had previously programmed with her personal security access codes. He quickly installed massive commercial-grade deadbolts on every single exterior door, effectively transforming the vulnerable residential house into a totally impenetrable fortress. I watched the heavy steel plates slide firmly into place, permanently locking my opportunistic family out of the comfortable life they had so arrogantly taken for granted. By noon, the massive transportation vehicle was completely full, and the workers successfully cleared the final items from the premises. The previously lavish interior was now completely stripped down to bare wooden floors and hollow, echoing walls. The opulent living space had been brutally reduced to a dark and empty shell, entirely devoid of any modern comfort or basic domestic warmth. I stood perfectly alone in the center of the desolate living room, feeling a profound sense of absolute liberation wash over my tired soul. There was only one final tactical maneuver left to execute on my morning agenda. I stepped out onto the quiet front porch and dialed the international contact number for the exclusive luxury hotel located directly in the heart of Paris. The concierge answered the overseas line with a polite, formal greeting, and I quickly provided the specific reservation details for my incoming family members. I am the primary card holder, and I am officially revoking all future payment authorizations for the room profile of those specific guests. The hotel representative paused briefly to review the digital folio before confirming that the attached financial profile would be immediately declined upon their physical arrival at the reception desk. I thanked the staff member for their prompt administrative assistance and calmly terminated the overseas connection. I walked confidently down the long concrete driveway and drove away from the hollowed-out property, leaving absolutely nothing behind. Midnight on Saturday on the East Coast time zone transformed a peaceful afternoon in Paris into an absolute chaotic disaster for my relatives. The automated financial alerts I had triggered from America successfully reached the European banking networks, resulting in an immediate and highly embarrassing confrontation. The luxury hotel manager approached my family directly in the grand lobby just as they were aggressively attempting to charge an incredibly expensive welcome dinner to their suite folio. He politely but firmly informed them that the transaction was completely denied. The hotel administration had received direct confirmation that the primary financial account was permanently locked. The primary cardholder has officially revoked the payment authorization. If you do not have another valid method to secure the deposit, we will be forced to ask you to leave. That single professional declaration instantly shattered their arrogant facade and plunged them into sheer panic. Shelby immediately began arguing with the concierge, desperately insisting that a massive banking error had occurred. She confidently demanded that they run her personal supplementary card to cover the outstanding charges. The digital terminal coldly rejected that piece of plastic as well. The harsh reality of their sudden bankruptcy quickly dawned on the opportunistic boyfriend standing beside her. Lance had eagerly tagged along under the strict assumption that he was getting a completely free luxury European vacation fully funded by a wealthy sister. He realized he was now permanently tethered to a broke family facing a massive outstanding hotel bill in a foreign country. You specifically told me this entire trip was fully paid for. I am not sticking around to suffer through this massive disaster with your family. Do not just walk away like this. You need to stay here and help me fix this mess right now. Shelby screamed at him across the crowded reception area, but her desperate demands were completely ignored. Lance coldly turned his back on my sister and rapidly gathered his personal designer luggage. He stormed straight out the revolving glass doors without looking back, entirely abandoning the sinking ship to save his own skin. He had absolutely zero intention of spending his own money to rescue the very people he was actively trying to exploit. His sudden departure left Mom, Dad, and Shelby standing completely alone, facing a highly unyielding hotel management team. The elite Parisian establishment gave them exactly 1 hour to vacate the premises before security would forcibly remove them. The three of them scrambled back up to the lavish penthouse they could no longer afford and frantically shoved their belongings into their suitcases. They were unceremoniously escorted out of the beautiful building and dumped onto the bustling foreign sidewalk. They had to frantically scrape together every single crumpled euro note they carried just to secure a cheap taxi ride to the international airport. With no active credit lines available, they were forced to drain their meager checking accounts to purchase the absolute cheapest economy class tickets available on a red-eye flight back to America. While they were enduring the ultimate public humiliation abroad, I was resting comfortably in my quiet living room. My smartphone screen continuously lit up the dark coffee table with dozens of frantic missed calls and long, desperate text messages begging for immediate financial assistance. I calmly watched their digital panic unfold from thousands of miles away, completely ignoring the incoming notifications. I eventually picked up the device and silently deleted every single voicemail without listening to a single second of their hysterical pleading. I placed the phone face down on the solid wooden surface and confidently walked away to brew a fresh, warm cup of tea, enjoying the profound silence of my evening. Late Tuesday evening the following week, a rundown commercial taxi slowly rolled to a stop in front of the porch in the dismal, freezing drizzle. Mom, Dad, and Shelby stepped out of the vehicle looking absolutely exhausted and thoroughly defeated after enduring a grueling intercontinental economy flight. Their clothes were heavily wrinkled, and their previously arrogant expressions had completely evaporated into sheer physical exhaustion. They silently dragged their massive designer suitcases across the wet concrete driveway, desperately seeking the warm, comfortable refuge of their suburban sanctuary. Dad walked heavily up the wooden steps and reached into his damp coat pocket to retrieve his familiar brass house key. He confidently slid the metal piece into the front door mechanism, fully expecting the lock to immediately click open. He jiggled the key aggressively back and forth for several tense moments before suddenly realizing the old metal was entirely useless against the massive new commercial steel deadbolts mounted firmly onto the solid wood. "Why won't the key open the door? What the hell is happening with this house?" Dad shouted in profound frustration while violently rattling the heavy door handle. Shelby angrily pushed past him and pressed her face directly against the cold front window pane, desperately peering into the dark living room to see what was blocking their entry. Her eyes widened in absolute sheer horror as her exhausted brain slowly processed the devastating visual information presented before her. The once luxurious domestic space had been entirely stripped down to the bare wooden floorboards, leaving absolutely nothing behind. It is completely empty inside. The television and the sofa are gone, and the electricity has been completely cut off. Shelby screamed hysterically while violently pounding her clenched fists against the thick window glass. Dad frantically flipped the exterior porch light switch back and forth, hoping to somehow illuminate the dark property, but the bulb remained completely dead. I had permanently severed the municipal utility account several days ago, leaving the entire sprawling residence without any power or running water. They stood completely paralyzed on the damp concrete porch, slowly realizing their guaranteed safe haven had been systematically eradicated. A few minutes later, an unmarked black sedan slowly pulled up to the curb directly behind the departing taxi. A stern-looking man wearing a dark waterproof jacket stepped out of the vehicle and walked purposefully up the driveway holding a thick manila envelope. He cautiously approached the three panicked individuals shivering on the front steps and immediately identified the primary target of his highly specific professional assignment. "I am a court process server, Sandra. Please sign to acknowledge the receipt of this fraud investigation file," he stated coldly while thrusting the heavy legal document directly into her violently trembling hands. He presented a digital tablet requiring her immediate signature before quickly turning around and walking back to his car. Mom forcefully tore open the sealed envelope and stared blankly at the official federal indictments and the strict restraining order officially drafted by my attorney. The official judicial paperwork explicitly detailed the forged property transfer documents, the stolen financial identity, and the severe criminal charges currently pending against her. Her arrogant entitlement completely shattered under the crushing weight of this inescapable reality. Dad grabbed the papers from her shaking hands and read the terrifying legal threats, while Shelby collapsed onto the wet wooden steps, weeping uncontrollably. They collectively realized they had permanently lost their comfortable shelter, their unearned financial backing, and their absolute freedom. They were now completely homeless individuals standing in the freezing rain facing severe federal prison sentences due entirely to their own malicious greed and relentless exploitation. At 9 o'clock on Monday morning of the following month, I stood outside my brand new fashion boutique located thousands of miles away from the toxic environment of my past life. The crisp air felt incredibly invigorating as I prepared to launch this fresh chapter of my professional journey, completely free from the suffocating shadows of my manipulative relatives. A notification pinged on my laptop screen containing a formal digital message from Bennett. My attorney confirmed that he had finalized every necessary legal procedure to permanently insulate my assets against any further claims or interference from my family members. My smartphone began to vibrate intensely against the glass table, breaking the serene silence of my workspace. It was a final, desperate incoming call from Mom. I stared at the screen, watching her name flash repeatedly, while remembering every single sacrifice I had foolishly made to earn their superficial affection. I decided to accept the call for the very last time, to clearly define the absolute end of our connection. "I am so sorry. Please understand that we are family after all. I simply cannot allow you to push your own mother and sister into total bankruptcy like this. Mom, do not waste your breath anymore, because I have confirmed that my attorney has successfully handed over every piece of fraudulent evidence to the authorities, so you must deal with the legal consequences yourselves." I ended the call immediately after delivering that firm closing statement. I did not wait for her frantic rebuttal or the inevitable sobbing. I powered down the device, removed the physical SIM card, and snapped it into two clean pieces. This small physical action served as the final symbolic bridge I needed to burn to ensure they could never reach me again. I took a deep breath of fresh air, turned away from the discarded pieces of plastic, and pushed open the glass entrance of my boutique. Stepping inside, I felt an overwhelming sense of profound peace and genuine freedom, knowing I no longer had to perform or pay for a fake sense of belonging. The journey I have endured offers several vital lessons for anyone currently trapped in a similar cycle of exploitation. First, protecting your personal boundaries is never an act of selfishness, but a fundamental requirement for survival to prevent the bottomless greed of those who constantly seek to drain your hard-earned success. Second, genuine family bonds cannot be purchased with an infinite line of credit because blind sacrifice only cultivates ungrateful parasites who perceive your generosity as a permanent weakness. Finally, when facing organized deception or betrayal, stop wasting your emotional energy on useless arguments and instead utilize the power of the legal system and absolute silence to deliver the most effective retribution possible. I sincerely thank every listener who took the time to walk through this long journey of reclaiming my life and dignity with me. Your time is valuable, and I truly hope these insights help you recognize your own worth and courageously set your own boundaries. Please feel free to share your personal perspective or experiences regarding this matter in the comments section below. I value each of your voices, so make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications to support the channel and stay updated on our upcoming stories.